I'm pretty clear on most of it, and I'm about as interested as you are in this whole in rem issue, because I'm actually thinking about the fact that this seems like a limitation. It really does seem like a limitation of the concept of jurisdiction to address the money as physical property, because money isn't. I don't know if I really see money as physical property. More as just a representation of value.
Maybe you hit upon another one of my interests. Okay, so that's Austrian economics and the theory of money and all that fun stuff. So forgive me and rein me in if I go too far. So a Federal Reserve note is a representation of an abstraction. Okay,
yep.
And that abstraction can have two different faces. That abstraction can be a debt or an asset, depending on context. And the damn thing about it is that it is purely depending on context as to whether it's a hypothetical debt or a hypothetical asset. It's not a real one in either case. It's not physical. It is hypothetical or abstract in either case. So we're talking about a representation of an abstraction that can have opposite meaning. So when I am saying I demand a debt note, the court can choose to make nonsense of it, or it can choose to view it as an asset, depending on my opponent. Now, if my opponent happens to be a bank, it gets extra interesting, because now I am demanding a negative asset from the person to whom the asset is actually on the positive side. The way I framed my question, the bank can't lose. It's heads you win, tails I lose, which is why it is very, very difficult to construct an argument against the bank on the issue of money. Now, if we take that and we go a step further and we start complaining about an account balance, we're talking about the abstraction ledger of a representation of an abstraction of something that has two possible faces, one positive, one negative, one debt and one asset, for which to the bank those are reversed, and I'm demanding that they adjust that ledger in a certain way. And I'm trying to construct an argument upon which I can say it is wrongful for them to do otherwise. Oh my God, talk about being impossible to construct an argument.
Yeah.
Which is mentally why it is nearly impossible to construct an argument on the issue of money against the bank or any member of the FDIC or the whatever Federal Reserve or any participant, right?
Sure, yeah, and I guess that is a really interesting view of it, and I hadn't ever thought about that, but I guess at some point in my life I did sort of get this idea that anything like going after a bank in any issue of money would be really difficult, and I guess I always assumed that it was just because they're bankers, they know a lot about money, but
yeah, the political influence is not to be overlooked either, right? I mean,
yeah, there is that too. Yeah.
Fundamentally, no, basically fined for the bank in almost all instances, unless that's just that a bank teller happened to rape you or something like that, right? They can make a valid point to reverse logic at any point that they want. They can simply reverse logic by saying, oh, well, I'm sorry, in this instance, money is a debt from us. He's actually demanding that he owe us money. And we're saying we'd rather not. Boom. You're done. You're toast.
I mean, it's ultimate. I mean, it's abject bullshit.
Right.
But I can see how how it could work.
Yeah, the reason that it has that nature is because of a gun to our heads, right? They've created this thing that is a representation of a debt, and then the government takes that thing and forces us to use it as an asset, to treat it as if it were an asset. And we're forced to do so, but the banks aren't. You can't force the bank to treat a debt to them as an asset. So when you get into court, the court has to actually make sense of it. And furthermore, if you're the plaintiff, you're screwed. And if you're the defendant, you can't construct your defense in any sensible way. Because all it is them saying, oh, we're choosing to forgive him of a debt, which happens to screw him.
Right.
Because of the debt that he was treating as an asset. It's a mess. It is a mess.